Hello, my dear friends. If you're here, you've lived a full life. You've loved, you've learned, and you've earned every bit of wisdom that comes with being over 60. And perhaps you're thinking about companionship again, or maybe you're already navigating the waters of dating at this beautiful stage of life. Let me say this gently but clearly. You deserve respect, honesty, and genuine connection. You've raised families, built careers, cared for aging parents, and weathered storms that would have broken lesser souls. The last thing you need now is someone who drains your energy or disrespects your boundaries. This isn't about being negative or closed off to love. Quite the opposite. It's about protecting the peace you've worked so hard to create. Think of it this way. When you were younger, you might have had the energy to fix broken men or wait for someone to grow up. But now, your time is precious. Your emotional energy is sacred. We're going to talk about certain types of men who, frankly, are not worth your time. Not because they're evil, but because they're incompatible with the healthy, balanced relationship you deserve. These are red flags that are easier to spot when you know what you're looking for. And the first one is perhaps the most common, yet the hardest to recognize at first. It's the man who seems interested, but keeps you at arm's length. The one who's present, but somehow absent. Let's talk about emotional unavailability and why it matters more now than ever. He's charming when you're together. He calls, he makes plans, maybe he even brings flowers. But when you try to talk about what you mean to each other, he changes the subject. When you mention the future, even something as simple as planning a trip next month, he gets vague. Let's just see how things go. He says with a smile that used to reassure you, but now feels like a wall. This is the Peter Pan man. He's stuck in perpetual boyhood, terrified of anything that resembles real commitment or emotional depth. You'll notice patterns. He's had a string of relationships that lasted just long enough to feel promising before he pulled away. He avoids meeting your children or grandchildren. When you share something vulnerable, perhaps about your late husband or your fears about aging, he listens politely but never reciprocates. He keeps conversations light, surface level, safe. Here's a real example. Margaret, 72, dated a man for 8 months. Lovely dinners, weekend getaways, genuine laughter. But when her daughter invited them both to Thanksgiving, he declined. When Margaret's sister fell ill and she needed emotional support, he sent a text saying, "Hope she feels better," and disappeared for a week. When she finally asked where their relationship was heading, he said, "I thought we were just having fun." At this stage of life, you don't have time for just having fun with someone who won't be there when life gets real. And life does get real. Health scares, family needs, the simple desire to know someone truly sees you. Emotional unavailability isn't just disappointing, it's lonely. And you didn't survive everything you've survived to end up feeling alone next to someone. Now, while the Peter Pan man keeps you at a distance, there's another type who does the opposite. He comes on too strong, too fast, wanting to know everything about you, be everywhere with you. But this intensity isn't love. It's something far more dangerous. The control freak. He seems attentive at first, almost wonderfully so. He texts every morning to ask how you slept. He wants to know your plans for the day. He offers advice on what you should wear, what you should eat, how you should handle that disagreement with your son. It feels like caring, like someone finally paying attention after years of being invisible. But then the texts come more frequently. Where are you? Who are you with? Why didn't you answer right away? He suggests you shouldn't see your friend Linda so often. She's negative, he says, not good for you. He questions your spending. Maybe he offers to help with your finances, saying you're too trusting, too naive about money. The compliments turn into corrections. That dress would look better if you lost a few pounds, sweetheart. I'm just concerned about your health. This isn't love. It's control. And it's insidious because it masquerades as devotion. Here's what it looked like for Patricia, 67. Within 3 months, her boyfriend had convinced her to give him access to her bank account to help organize things. He discouraged her weekly bridge game because those women gossiped too much. He called her foolish for trusting her financial advisor. When she pushed back, he'd say, "I'm only trying to protect you. Why are you being so defensive?" The warning signs are there early. He makes decisions without consulting you. He dismisses your opinions, then acts hurt when you object. He keeps track of your time, your money, your friendships. He frames every criticism as concern, every boundary crossing as care. This type of man doesn't want a partner. He wants someone to manage, to mold, to diminish until you doubt your own judgment. And speaking of doubt, there's another type who'll have you questioning everything, but for different reasons. He's perpetually unhappy, and somehow, nothing is ever his fault. The perpetual victim. You'll recognize him immediately because within minutes of meeting, you'll know everything that's gone wrong in his life. His ex-wife ruined him. His kids don't appreciate him. His boss never recognized his talent. His health problems, caused by the stress everyone else put on him. His financial struggles, bad luck, unfair circumstances, people who took advantage. At first, your heart goes out to him. You're a compassionate woman. You've weathered storms yourself, so you understand hardship. When he talks about his loneliness, his disappointments, you want to help. You listen, you encourage, you offer perspective. But here's what happens. It never stops. Every conversation circles back to his grievances. You share something about your day, and within minutes, he's steered it back to his problems. You suggest solutions. He explains why they won't work. You offer hope. He lists reasons why things will never improve. Nothing is ever his responsibility. There's always someone else to blame. Margaret, 63, dated someone like this for 8 months. She'd call him excited about her granddaughter's graduation, and he'd spend the conversation complaining about his son's ingratitude. She'd suggest a weekend trip, and he'd spiral into why he couldn't enjoy anything because of what his former business partner did 15 years ago. When she gently suggested therapy, he said therapists just want your money and don't understand real problems. She finally realized she wasn't his partner. She was his audience, his emotional dumping ground. And she was exhausted. There's a difference between supporting someone through genuine difficulty and being drained by someone who refuses to take any responsibility for their own life. You deserve reciprocity, mutual support, not a one-way street paved with complaints. Now these men, the victims, the controllers, the emotionally unavailable, they're challenging, but at least their problems are clearly theirs. The next type? He comes with problems you might convince yourself you can solve. The forever project. He's the man you meet who seems like he just needs a little help, a little support, a little love, and he'll turn things around. Maybe he's struggling with alcohol, not an alcoholic, he insists, just drinks to cope with stress. Maybe his finances are a mess because of a divorce, a business failure, something that happened to him. Maybe he's buried in grief from a loss years ago and just hasn't found his way back yet. Your heart recognizes his pain. And here's the dangerous thought that creeps in. I can help him. With the right support, he'll change. Listen carefully. People only change when they decide to change. Not when you love them enough. Not when you're patient enough. Not when you sacrifice enough of yourself. Linda, 61, spent 3 years with a man who promised he'd get his drinking under control. She poured her energy into creating a calm home, researching treatment options, attending support groups for him. He'd have good weeks, and she'd feel hopeful. Then he'd relapse, and somehow it became about what she did wrong. Didn't she understand his stress? Why was she pressuring him? She finally understood. She'd become his enabler, not his partner. He didn't want to change. He wanted someone to manage the consequences of not changing. After 60, your energy is precious. You've earned peace, not projects. You cannot fix another adult. You cannot love someone into sobriety, financial responsibility, or emotional health. That's their work, and they have to want it. When you meet someone with serious unresolved issues, ask yourself, is he actively working on this, or is he looking for someone to work around it? The answer tells you everything, but at least with the Forever Project, you can see the problems. The next type? He spent considerable effort making sure you don't see the truth at all. The Chameleon. He's the most dangerous type because you think you know him, but you don't. Not really. Margaret, 63, met David on a dating site. Charming, attentive. He said he was a widower, retired architect, loved travel. They messaged for weeks. But every time she suggested a video call, something came up. His camera was broken. Internet problems. He preferred the mystery of getting to know each other slowly. It felt romantic, until her daughter did a reverse image search on his photo. The man in the picture? A Swedish model. David didn't exist. The Chameleon creates an entire fiction. Sometimes it's catfishing, completely fake profiles designed to manipulate. Sometimes it's subtler. He's separated, not divorced. Financially comfortable means buried in debt. That business he owns hasn't operated in years. He might even have another relationship or a whole other family you know nothing about. Watch for the inconsistencies. Stories that shift. Vague answers about where he lives or works. He never invites you to his home. You haven't met a single friend or family member. He's always available, but only at certain times. He avoids your calls unexpectedly. When you ask direct questions, he deflects with charm or turns it around. Don't you trust me? Patricia, 65, dated someone for 8 months before discovering he was still married. Living with his wife, she'd been the secret, not the partner. Trust your instincts. That uncomfortable feeling when details don't add up? That's wisdom. Do your due diligence. A simple online search. Ask to meet people in his life. If he's legitimate, he'll understand. If he's not, he'll get defensive or disappear. After 60, you've lived enough to recognize when something feels off. Honor that. You deserve complete honesty, not a carefully constructed performance. These men, the victims, the controllers, the emotionally unavailable, the projects, the chameleons, they all have something in common. They take more than they give. They diminish rather than enhance your life. But here's what you need to remember. You are not a rehabilitation center. You are not a detective. You are not a therapist, a savior, or a compromise. You are a woman who has earned the right to peace, authenticity, and joy. After 60, you know yourself. You've raised families, built careers, navigated losses, survived transitions. You've learned hard lessons about who you are and what you need. This is not the time to shrink yourself to accommodate someone else's dysfunction. This is the time to expand into the life you've worked so hard to create. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's essential. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. When your gut whispers that something's wrong, listen. That instinct has been honed by decades of experience. It's not paranoia, it's wisdom. What does a boundary look like? It's saying, I need consistency, not chaos. It's walking away when someone repeatedly disrespects your time. It's refusing to be someone's emotional dumping ground while getting nothing in return. It's insisting on honesty and ending things when you discover lies. It's choosing your own peace over someone else's potential. You communicate boundaries clearly and calmly. I'm looking for a partner who is emotionally available and honest. If that's not where you are, I understand, but it's not what I need. If he responds with defensiveness, guilt-tripping, or manipulation, you have your answer. And here's the beautiful truth. Dating after 60 can be wonderful. There are men out there who are self-aware, emotionally healthy, genuinely available. Men who've done their own work, who communicate honestly, who enhance your life rather than complicate it, who see your value and match it with their own. But you'll only find them when you stop settling for less. You deserve respect, you deserve honesty, you deserve genuine connection, and most importantly, you deserve to prioritize yourself. Trust yourself. Protect your peace. Choose wisely, because after 60, you don't have time to waste on the wrong ones.